Today we're going to be working on Lesson 37, which is found on page 193 of your text. And in this lesson, we're going to be adding and subtracting decimal numbers. Now remember that when we add numbers together, we're always wanting to make sure to add the place values together. So we add our ones together, we add our tens together, we add our hundreds together. And sometimes we have to carry in order to do this correctly. So what you're going to be doing when you want to work with decimal numbers is you just have to make sure that you are adding the correct place values together. To do this, we just line up the decimal points. And by lining up decimal points, we ensure that we're adding place values together. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So in Lesson 37, we're going to be adding decimal numbers. So look at example number 1 at the top of page 194. We're asked to add 3 4/10, 26 hundredths, and 3/10 together. Well, remember, we want to make sure to add the place values together correctly. So when I write my numbers vertically in order to add, I want to just line up the decimal points, like so. Then when I add, I'm adding correct place values together. You see, 3 4/10 does not have any hundredths. So therefore, I'm going to just put in a 0 because it has no hundredths. This doesn't change the value of the number. It's just placing a 0 to hold that space. It's just saying this number has no hundredths. Now, this number here has a hundredths place. This is 26 hundredths. So there's 2/10 and 6 hundredths. What about 3/10? Does 3/10 have any hundredths? No, so I can insert a 0 there. It doesn't change the value of the number. Now, I want you to consider something just to make sure that you understand that you can do this. Let's consider the number 3/10. 3/10 is the fraction 3/10. Now consider the number 30 hundredths. 30 hundredths is the fraction 30/100. Now, if I take 30/100 and I reduce it by dividing by 10 in both the numerator and the denominator, this fraction will reduce to 3/10. So that's why I can say that 3/10 and 30 hundredths are equal to each other. And that means this decimal number is equal to this decimal number. That's why I can put a 0 on the end of a decimal number and it doesn't change the value of the number. Now, once I've done this, I just add place values. I would have 6 hundredths, and there I would have 9/10, and then I would have 3 ones. So then my solution to this, or my sum, is going to be 3 and 96 hundredths. Look at example 2. In example 2, we have 4 and 56 hundredths. Take away 2 and 3/10. So again, I'm going to have 4 and 56 hundredths, but I'm subtracting 2 and 3/10. So 2 and 3/10 does not have any hundredths, so I'm going to insert that 0. And so 6 minus 0 is 6, 5 minus 3 is 2, and 4 minus 2 is 2. So my subtraction answer, my difference, would be 2 and 26 hundredths. So when you're adding and subtracting decimal numbers, be sure to line up the decimal place. This ensures that you are adding the correct place values together. And another thing, when you're writing decimal numbers, you can add zeros to the end of a decimal number without changing the value of the number. Okay, why don't you go ahead and try your practice problems and then come back and we'll work on those together. Okay, so we're adding and subtracting decimal numbers, and we want to remember to line up the decimal so that you're adding place values, the correct place values together. Well, let's go ahead and try your practice problems and see how you did. Okay, practice problem A. We are asked to add 3 and 46 hundredths to 2/10. So again, I'm going to line up the decimal points, and I like to fill in missing spaces with zeros. So this would be 6, 6, and 3. Our sum is 3 and 66 hundredths. Problem B, we're subtracting. We have 8 and 28 hundredths minus 6 and 1/10. Again, I fill in empty places with zeros and subtract. And my difference would be 2 and 1800ths. Problem C, I have 0 and 735 thousandths. To that, I'm adding 0 and 21 hundredths. Again, I fill in empty spaces with zeros and I add. 945 thousandths would be my answer. Problem D is a subtraction problem, so I have 0 and 543 thousandths. Take away 0 and 21 hundredths. Again, I fill in missing spaces with 0 and subtract. And so my answer is going to be 333 thousandths. Problem E. I want to find the sum for 43 hundredths, 1/10, and 413 thousandths. So I'm going to fill in missing places with zeros and then add. 943 thousandths would be my sum. Problem F, I have 30 hundredths, and from that I'm taking away 27 hundredths. Well, 30 minus 27 is 3, so 30 hundredths minus 27 hundredths would be 3 hundredths. Problem G, we're asked to add 6 tenths and 7 tenths. Well, 6 plus 7 is 13, and if I carry the 1, I would have a 1 here. Don't forget your decimal point, so my answer is 1 3/10. Problem H, I have 1 whole, and from that I am subtracting 24 hundredths. Well, if I have $1 and I subtract 24 pennies, I would be left with how many pennies? Because that's essentially what this problem is saying. So we're going to borrow to find out. 10 minus 4 is 6, 9 minus 2 is 7, and 0 minus 0 is 0. So I'd be left with 76 pennies, and that's 0 and 76 hundredths. Problem I, we have 9 tenths, and to that we're adding 12 tenths, or 12 hundredths rather. So I'm going to insert this 0 and then add. So that would be 2, 10, carry the 1, put the 1 here, and don't forget your decimal point. 1 and 2 hundredths. And then for problem J, we have 1 and 23 hundredths. And from that, we're subtracting 4 tenths. So I insert that missing 0 and subtract. 3, and then 12 minus 4 is 8. So this would be 83 hundredths. Now, I'm already teaching you to insert those missing zeros because I think it kind of helps some students when they're working with these numbers. Now, your book does not insert those zeros quite yet. When you look in your solutions manual, you'll find that those zeros are not there. What I would recommend that you do is choose the method that you like better. I prefer to insert zeros. And the reason why is because later on down the road in some of the other problems that we're going to do, it just makes sense to insert those zeros. So I like to just go ahead and just do it. But you might want to choose not to, and either way is fine. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy your math, and I'll see you tomorrow.